Welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen. It's really two programs in one. This is a series that appeals to your creative side. Food that is sumptuous stuff. How could that be? This is a program about people who want to eat healthy and reduce calories. Actually, it's about food with an aromatic quality that fills the nose. Oh, sure, but it's also about keeping my arteries clean by reducing fat. But it doesn't mean a thing if the food isn't rich and colorful. Maximize the flavor. Okay, but I must have healthy food that I can cook in minutes. I must minimize the risk. So welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen, where we get our heads together just for you. Well, indeed, welcome. Look, what we do here is we got a basic technique and then springboard the technique into something special for you as a recipe. Actually, two recipes in one, but come over here and I'll show you how it works. Actually, this time, if I was ever asked, and I am frequently, what is the best food you can ever remember in your whole life, I'd have to say something bathed in a white sauce. And I loved it. I mean, just about anything which is coated in a lovely mouth-round fullness thing. What I mean by mouth-round fullness, it says MRF, is something, if you could think about it in your mouth, it just rolls around your mouth. It's so soft and so, and it carries flavor. And it's usually fat that actually does that. Well, what I want to do is I want to compete with fat by adding aroma and color and texture to a sauce. ACT is rather fun. You can act on the idea. So the aromas are going to come from spices today, from herbs and spices, you'll see. The color is going to be a dense white color, as in the sauce. The texture is going to be this MRF in there. And I'll show you how all of that comes together just in one brief moment. Okay, ready? Let's go. By the way, just in case you should think I have an armful of fat, this will disappear during the program. This was just washing my hands before I start. I wash before I start, and I do the washing up at the end of it. It's just the sort of way of, well, anyway, come on, Kerr, get on with it. This is basic white sauce, and the stocks and things that can be added to it will change according to what you're cooking it with. Okay, so I'm going to make a kind of chickeny sauce at the present moment, so to put over a breast of chicken. Now, first of all, nick out and find the brand name doesn't matter, but find a yogurt which has no fat in it, and you read down the ingredients, you say a non-fat milk and pectin, product. So just read the label, and non-fat and no gelatin, because gelatin, it stops it from being able to strain like this does. So if you've done that, then all you need then is either one of these little things. There are very fine gauze in between a solid plastic container, and that will last and last and last forever. That actually fits one of these 32-ounce containers. So you get one of those, and then put a full cupful of this yogurt, just sort of put it in there like that, and heap it right to the top, and that'll be a full cup. And just pop the lid on the top, just like that. Now, you could, if you don't want to buy one of those little plastic things and you want to give it a go, and you've got a colander or a strainer or something, just get some kitchen paper, absorbent paper, and just dunk it in. You really couldn't be easier than that, could it? And then put a plate on the top and set that strainer or colander into a bowl, and both of those can go in the fridge. It's a good idea to put it in the fridge. The reason I put the cover on the top is in case there's anything like these onions and everything else on the top there, and they're dripping down and the flavors get into it. That's not a good idea. Here's one that I've actually done in advance. When it's done, you see how much I put in before. Well, this is, you think, where's it all gone? Well, where it's gone is that it drips out below. It actually strains during the 5-hour process. You need a minimum of 5 hours. Sometimes I just bung it in overnight. It doesn't matter if it takes longer. In fact, I've left it there for much as 4 days. It gets very dense then. And this is, you get this strained off. Now, that is whey. And it's got some protein in it. It's largely water, but you could use it for cooking beans, and it reinforces the protein of the bean in some way. Doesn't need to be thrown out. And then you've got this, which is the strained yogurt. Now, you look at it, and it is not like the way you think about yogurt. This is very dense. It's like fresh cheese, it could be called. Now, also, take a spoon and just very gently, don't push it around too much, but very gently smooth it out the little lumps that you'll find. The lumps are where the sugar content, the little bacterium have come around like this, and they sort of surrounded the lactose sugar. And that's what thickens the whole process of it. It turns it acidic. And it's not too acid, this particular one. Okay. Now, here, I'm going to just show you the thing for a chicken stock. Now, let's assume for a moment that you haven't got any chicken stock in the fridge. So, get a can of chicken stock. And I don't like canned chicken stock just as it is. I have to admit it. I think it's got a tinny, nasty taste to it. And so I worked at trying to deal with that. Bits of celery, a bay leaf, a couple of cloves, you know, the thing for toothache, and then some black peppercorns, some parsley and some thyme. Fresh thyme or dried thyme can do. Now, you can actually tie that up together in a muslin bag and bruise it and stick it in if you like. Or, if you haven't got an endless supply of muslin, you can get one of these sort of large tea bag kind of things and just bruise the herbs, put them inside there, and then just dump it in, raise the heat underneath, simmer it for just 30 minutes. Now, it's like making tea, really. So at the end, when you've actually made the tea, it looks like this. And then you need a sort of a pair of tongs, perhaps, and just grab a hold of it. You know, it's easy that way. And drop those out. This has now got the most gorgeous aroma to it. Remember that ACT factor? Aroma, color, and texture. So this is the aroma coming up. Now, to give the texture to it, it's going to be something which is really the pure starch. And if you've joined me for the first time, forgive me for this, but you know, you can pick it up later. But I use a pure starch so often in this sort of thing. And in this case, I've got it there already. In this case, I've got 3 tablespoons full of cornstarch, and I put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tablespoons full of a slightly sweet, this is a Gewürztraminer grape, which is slightly sweet grape, dealkalized wine on top of it. Now, you could use a little cold chicken stock if you don't want to do that. It's just a little extra signature tuning of mine. It's not absolutely essential. Make it up, stir it up until it all dissolves. Take this off the heat, always, to be able to do it, because otherwise you make dumplings, and then pour that cornstarch into the top. Now, sometimes I use arrowroot in dishes. Never use arrowroot with yogurt. There is a result which is slippery and very unacceptable. It's a very unpleasant flavor and taste. It's not the flavor so much, it's really the texture which is bad. Now, cornstarch needs about 30 seconds to clear the kind of starchy flavor that it has, and that's what's going on here. That's the absolute perfect time to add any kind of seasoning, sort of capers or pimento or anything else of that nature. And I'm going to add simply some freshly ground white pepper, because you know black pepper shows up rather badly in a dish like this. I love black pepper, but and of course this is really the same as black pepper except with the overcoat off. And then here's a little nutmeg in there, and it's got a small grater at the bottom where it shaves it off actually, and that gives me freshly shaved nutmeg into the top, with just about that 30 seconds going there. Now, at this point, if you were to add the yogurt to here, because it has no fat holding it, the heat would be so intense that it wouldn't actually work. So what I'm going to do, normally, you know, at home, I just wait. But since you're here, I have to do something to be able to cool that down. So it must cool down to the stage that you can actually put your finger in it. So let us put it to the acid test. look, supreme, supreme confidence. That's just fine. You know, it's not baby's bathwater stuff. It's warmer than that. Okay. But if it's too hot, what will happen is what you do next will cause it to break. It's a technical term called break because, as I said before, it hasn't got the fat in it. But look at that. It's so thick and rich and creamy, and that's what you want to get out of the sauce. So what you do then is gently, because again it doesn't have the fat to hold it together, we want the starch to pick up into that sauce and just reheat it. If it boils, it'll break. It's just tender. So just stir that in together. You'll find there's one or two little clumping, sort of little soft dumplings. And just smooth those out at the side of the dish, and it'll be done in a moment. I'm just looking for somebody who'll manufacture this one day, and we'll be able to just pop in and get a pot of it without all of that stuff. But in the meantime, it's enthusiasm that does it. Okay. So the sauce is poured then into a sauce boat, and you use it for whatever you like. In this case, obviously, because of the chicken stock, something with chicken. Come through and I'll show you the numbers. Actually, they're pretty good numbers, because when you think about the original sauce, when the original white sauce is made, it's just really flour, butter, and milk. But in this case, we got the aroma out of the spices and the color, which is the white from the yogurt, and the texture, that mouth-round fullness, which has come through, you know, from both the starch and the yogurt. Okay, let's have a look at the numbers. 179 in the original. Now let's drop that down to 89. Pretty good, eh? Look at this, from 14 grams of fat down to 1 only gram of fat, and none of which is saturated. And that means that you've got a sauce, and you might have thought of giving up sauces because of their fat content, which has only 8% of the calories from fat. Cholesterol is only down to 1, insignificant, really. Sodium, 157, providing you don't use a high sodium, you know, chicken stock, canned stock. Look for the low one. And then dietary fiber, 0, of course. All right, let's have a see and see how this actually tastes. First of all, from an appearance point of view, it coats the back of the spoon beautifully. Essential. Mouth-round fullness is gorgeous. You know, it really just floats over the tongue. It's got lots of character and taste to it. You know, sort of grabs you. I think it'll work. Well, look, we're going to springboard as normal, but this time we're just going to do something just before we springboard. And it's really an interesting idea. We're going to visit a local restaurant, and this one is called Mama Malina's restaurant. It's a university district in Seattle, and that's where we're going to today. Have a look.
This is a nice recipe, the fettuccine Alfredo, and rich, very rich.
Very rich indeed. As a matter of fact, you know, the original classic of this one, Angelolio's classic from Rome, actually is said to, although nobody's really quite sure about this because he's kept it rather closely guarded secret, 1 pound of pasta, 1 pound of butter, 1 pound of cheese, and the modern one, 1 pound of double cream stirred into the whole lot together. And it is bathing of the taste buds. In fact, it was so wonderful that Doug Fairbanks and Mary Pickford went there for dinner one day, in 1927 actually, and they thought it was so stupendous that they nicked out and got him a golden spoon and fork and brought it back and dubbed him King of the Fettuccine. And it truly is an extraordinary and wonderful dish. And it's made very well here, very well indeed. But let's eavesdrop on them and find out whether they think that this dish could actually be changed in any way at all, in any way.
So, Mama Melina, you think we can make this beautiful dish without egg yolks and cream and
No, Jack.
grana padano, patina?
No, this is the best. The best ingredients for this dish. It's very nice, molto buono in Italiano. No change, nothing.
Isn't she gorgeous? You've got to visit her. It's a great little restaurant. Now look, molto buono, you know, very good. I'm now going to take this concept, this Alfredo concept, and springboard with this sauce and make a change. I'm not going to call it Alfredo because that is a classic and she's right, it shouldn't be changed. But let's have a look and see what we can do with the numbers. Ready? Come on. Actually, you know, there are two original classics, and the first of the original classics was there was no cream in it. So there was a change made from the original, and then the cream was added to make it the kind of ultimate attraction. Well, I'm going to make some major changes, and I obviously won't call it Alfredo. But first of all, into vigorously boiling water, 8 ounces of penne, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. And just about 1/8 of a teaspoonful of salt, not much, just enough just to barely touch it. And always run the spoon around it so that you can see that the pasta is loose from the bottom when the water starts to boil. Okay. Now, it just so happens that dry penne takes about 8 to 9 minutes, and so do vegetables to steam. So I got this steamer basket and just fitted that onto the top there, and then just put on the top 8 ounces of carrot, cut diagonally like that, good diagonal cut, and then 8 ounces of the floret. Did you see that movie? It was a marvelous movie. 8 ounces of floret of cauliflower. And floret. A floret is just, you know, the little top cut off, broccoli in this case. So broccoli and cauliflower, gorgeous vegetables. And then the zucchini, slightly diagonally cut again, and just pop that on the top. 8 ounces of each, all right, for 4 people. And it'll do just well. No seasoning or anything else, just leave it just like that. All right. Now, with those, just make sure that you can get a clear shot at it. Put the lid on the top. 8 minutes later, you can return to it. You can see how perfect that is. Good. Fine. Good. Now, I'm going to use, for all pasta, you use just 2 ounces per portion. At least that's what I'm using nowadays. You could use more if you wanted, but 2 ounces. And that's what 2 ounces looks like. It's about a half a cup. And because it's dried weight, it weighs differently. And this is fettuccine, obviously, what was used in the shot we just saw and what the king of fettuccine used. But I prefer penne, really, to fettuccine, simply because it's easier to eat, and with a fork, it's less messy, no tie bills, you know, all that sort of thing. So 2 ounces per person. Now here, you remember, just as we did before, I've got a good stock, because this is vegetables, so this can be a vegetable stock now, and that has reduced down and concentrated with the herbs in it, so that now I've actually got the best part of 1.5 cups full of liquid ready for the sauce. All right, now into that we just bring the heat up underneath that, nice and hot, so as to bring it to the boil to add the thickening, and the thickening is the cornstarch once again. You see, the whole idea that I wanted to do is to show you the basic technique first of all, and then start springboarding into somewhere where you could use it in the same way I'm using it just for this dish. You can make up your own mind to do it for whatever you want to do. You can look at original dish that somebody's got, which is a bit high, and you know, you can't eat that any longer for some reason, or don't want to. And then you can say, well, I know what I could do. I could make that white sauce and then just incorporate in it, okay? Now, this is cornstarch. Never use arrowroot if you're into following me. And you say, well, I know he used arrowroot one time, so I can use arrowroot. Don't do that, because arrowroot with a yogurt turns it slippery, and it's a ghastly experience. Otherwise, fine and on the taste, but it's just textural problem. Okay, so you see this is just beginning to come up to the boil here, so you just draw it to one side, and then just pour that creamy starch mix into there. And there's so much of it with 3 tablespoons with only 1.5 cups, you see. Now that's a tablespoonful for half a cup. That's pretty thick. But I need it really thick to be able to give that same kind of gloss, depth, and roundness which you get from a load of fat. So we'll just let that cook through, because it takes about 30 seconds to get the cornstarch, starchy taste, you know, out of the thing. You know? So we'll just leave it like that. All right. Now, about this time, when you've got it at that stage, would be the time when you would start, we'll just pull that's going just nicely. When you take some nice leaves of fresh basil, all right, or basil if you prefer, and just with a knife, cut. It's obvious with a knife. What would you do? What else would you do it with? So with this knife, you cut through the leaves. You wrap the leaves together, and you cut through so as to create something called a chiffonade, which is really very fine whispers of the fresh herb. So that's ready to go, and we'll just put that to one side. Oh, actually, I might as well put that straight in there now. When it's come up to the boil and it's had that original, do around, and it's really thickened and it's got the starch taste out of it, just stir then the garnish in. And I also want to get some cheese in there, and I've got 1/4 cup of cheese there, and I want to go right the way down to the end and just leave us a little bit in the end just for a bit of garnish. And so then you stir the cheese in, so the cheese melts. Now, whilst that cheese is actually melting in there properly, clean it all down from around the sides and just keep it on the side of the heat so as to melt properly. I'll tell you what I will do now, just whilst that's melting. I want to get this down, before, I wanted to get this nice and cold so that it's just right. So about 4 ice cubes. You don't have to do this, frankly, at home. Just wait around, for it to cool down normally. Just to show you the cheese that I used here. Now, this is Monterey Dry Jack, okay? Monterey Dry Jack cheese. And it's a very nice cheese. And it's like Monterey cheese, or Monterey dry, Jack cheese, but this is dry Jack. So, and you can tell it, and it's really matured, and it's got a wonderful taste. This is an American wax-coated Parmesan, which has got a nice sweet core to it, very well made. And this is the Parmigiano Reggiano cheese, which comes from Parmesan. Parmigiano Reggiano, actually, it's Parmesan cheese, and it is a great granular cheese for grating. This is a little bit more expensive than this, and this is a little less expensive than that. So, look for the Monterey Dry Jack, and then when you actually grate it with a grater like this one by simply pulling across like so. You can get very nice, easy, simple grating out of it. All right, good. Now this is, that's come down nicely now. And let me just test for a finger. Good. And all I need then is out of the fridge for the yogurt. Remember, just done in exactly the same way as we've done before. Strained it, smooth it out with a little teaspoon, make sure that it hasn't got any lumps in it. And we're ready to go. Just simply toss that into the hot sauce and keep that, the whey underneath for whatever purposes you want to use it for. And just stir that around. Don't overbeat it. Don't get a whisk to it. Just stir it around just like so. About that time is exactly the stage at which the vegetables are done. And they've had just that 8 minutes, and they're perfect. And underneath, with exactly the same amount of time, I think that's fabulous that happens. Just make sure that there's nothing stuck to the bottom, is the pasta. And that is just poured off to begin with, get most of that hot water off, and then pour it into a colander like that. And that allows the pasta to drain so that it's not over wet, and at the same time heats the bowl up for the next process. So then you've got a hot bowl and the pasta, which is dropped down into the bowl, and then the sauce, which is ready for the anointing process. That cheese sauce is then poured over to the top there, and all of that then can be stirred around together just to be, look at that and how that coats it. There should have been a little bit of white pepper in there before, because that should have gone in with the sauce, and a little bit of the nutmeg, just as we had done in the earlier dish. All right. Then, lo and behold, you're ready to serve it. So you take some of the pasta and you just drop that down onto the dish, and then some of the fresh vegetables just picked up here and laid on the side. Ooh, crisp and gorgeous. Now that is the way that it should look. And then that final dusting that must happen, the little freshly ground black pepper over the top, strange but has a fabulous taste to it, and a sprinkle of cheese just to let people know that you've got cheese in the dish. There it is. Let's have a look at the numbers. Come on through. This really looks good. I think when you actually lay that up alongside it and look at the colors and the textures of that, and Oh, the creaminess of it. This is a lovely dish. Make no mistake about it. It's wonderful. And we'll do need to have a look at the numbers, though. Get it in your mind. There's the classic, is 1,723 calories. Our little one here, it's not the same dish, remember. We've changed it. It's come down to 419. Instead of 130 grams of fat, there's 5 grams of fat there. Instead of saturated fat of 80 grams, which is enormously high, down to 2. That means that the whole dish is 11% of calories from fat, 9 milligrams of cholesterol, only 40 milligrams of sodium, and a whole 9 grams of dietary fiber, which is incredible when you actually get round to think about it. So it's lovely of you to have been with me, but actually, as I say goodbye and God bless to you, I'm going to have a mouthful of this because I enjoy making it. God bless. Don't forget, minimize the risk, maximize the flavor. Love you. Bye.